Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of RE023, where I take old stories that I've narrated and update them to modern standards with new vocals and new hardware. This particular story is called Monster, Machine, or Man, written by RegalLegalEagle. Higskiff's Norjaus looked around the fuel station's commissary for a moment as he got a number of looks. As usual, he stood out. Most Siskin squaw did due to their colorful feathers. Norjaws had a particularly vibrant red fur over most of his body, with white circles around his eyes. His feet and hands were coated in blue, but there were also splashes of yellow. Norjaws used to enjoy standing out amongst the drab aliens that he came across. But he realized now that for a life of adventuring, it might not be so great. Someone easy to notice was always easy to remember, which could be good and it could be bad. He hoped he didn't owe anyone any money as he looked over the aliens looking back at him. But soon enough, though, the other patrons went back to what they were doing, and he sighed softly, heading towards the bar. Since dropping out of the university, he had been trying to make a name for himself. Reading those epic poems and voyages had given him a case of wanderlust that no book could cure. So he used up what was left of his tuition money and bought a Kresik's Comet and decided to look for either a crew to take on and join him or a captain in need of a scout. But it wasn't working out for him. No one wanted a Siskin squaw captain thanks to the stereotypes, and no captain wanted a scout who was easy to spot. He's been raking up quite the debt lately, just trying to find ways to adventure or make money. This was perhaps his last hope. He'd heard that the sector had seen an unusual number of wrecks recently, and was hoping to find those who want to join him in the salvage effort. It wasn't as romantic as the adventuring he dreamed of, but he needed to get some money to start paying down his debt. The problem was, he's also heard how dangerous the sector was. Some new species had shown up and was making life hard for all involved. At the bar, he noticed two four-armed Grassin with very similar features. Brothers, perhaps. Their pale blue skin blending in with the somber morning clothes that they were wearing. Though, despite their clothes, they didn't look like they were in mourning. He saw the numerous blades each had strapped about his body. There were some other normal-looking ruffians and thug types around the bar with them. He noticed a hunched-over Pulbalon at the end. His pressure suit looked more ragged than any Norjaws had seen before. Some sort of silvery tape was covering up numerous patches of the suit. And how he managed to keep breathable atmosphere in there, Norjaws had no idea. As he approached the bar, the only open spot was next to the Grassin, so he slid past and took a seat. He motioned for the bartender then, and as the machine came over, he quietly ordered, "1 hot cold tea, please." "Ha ha! Tea?" one of the Grassin next to him exclaimed, slapping Norjaws on the shoulder. "Aren't you in the wrong place for ordering tea, lad?" Norjaws gulped as he looked over at a much bigger alien for a moment. "If they serve tea, why would this be the wrong place for it?" The Grassin laughed at this comment, though he wasn't sure why. "Is that your comet out there?" he asked. Norjaws looked over his shoulder and out the viewport at the ships being fueled up and nodded as his ship was mentioned. "It is."
"Oh, it's a very fine ship."
Suddenly, the second Grassin moved to Norjaws' other side, sandwiching him in between them. He began to feel rather nervous.
"With a ship like that, it would be quite easy for us to complete our task."
"And what task might that be?" Norjaws asked, looking from one to the other with a nervous expression.
"We hunt a beast!"
the Grassin roared together, drawing the attention of everyone else in the bar, except for the hunched-over Pulbulan at the end of the bar for some reason. He just kept quietly sucking down a drink through a straw in his pressure suit's faceplate. The Grassin on Norjaws' left continued,
"Many cycles ago, an expedition was formed to explore a Sophic tomb on a nearly barren moon far from here. A tundra of wild animals and toxic plants, no less. 11 entered the tomb, and none of the expedition came out. Instead, they woke something horrible deep inside.
The bar was quiet now as the patrons listened to the tale being woven.
This was no ordinary beast either.
The Grassin to his right spoke up now.
It had been wounded while killing the expedition. An entire limb had been removed, but it did not slow down.
He nearly whispered that last part as murmurs overtook the crowd.
It fled, leaving behind a trail of innards from the mouth of the tomb. We assumed that we could track his trail and find the body of the beast not far past, but no.
He nearly shouted that, and everyone leaned back before the one to the left started.
Across the barren tundra, we followed the trail of this wounded beast. Shocked when we realized the bleeding had somehow stopped without medical aid. As it traveled, it consumed toxic plants, rich with the sorts of chemical scientists used to make biological weapons. But not only plants. It hunted small animals, too, so voracious was its appetite. Then we discovered it scavenged the kills of other predators, leaving nothing behind but bone. No predator in the wastes would touch it. Or perhaps they couldn't.
Taking turns, the one on the right spoke up again.
We even found dwellings made of nothing but ice that the beast used for shelter. Ice! Nothing could stop the beast from its goal. On a journey that covered nearly half a moon, it did not stop. Finally, it found the ship that the expedition had left behind. The ship belonging to our clan and our sister who had gone on this expedition. Which is why
the Grassin slapped a hand on Nodger's shoulder again, making him jump.
We need your ship to track it down and kill it, to bring revenge to our family.
Well, that's noble goal, Nodger stammered. But I need money for fuel and I have debts. What can you pay?
We will pay in your blood.
The Grassin growled out, and Nodger gulped heavily as they started to reach for their blades. But then there was a whine of a charged pistol, and the Grassin turned. Nodger turned as well. Amid the tables in the bar area was a solitary figure, a black-clothed Kavest, who looked familiar. Nodger gasped then, as he realized he was looking at Sure-Shot Svern, a wanted criminal. But Nodger thought that Svern worked with the team.
That is a nice goal you two have, avenging your sister. But I am in need of the ship more urgently than you, I am afraid. You see, that creature you're talking about is probably just a slug, something slow that can dissolve its food easily as it moves. Hardly a threat for those of us who can walk around faster than a Lovian cow.
There were some nervous chuckles from around the bar.
But what I am dealing with is a lot more persistent. I'm sure some of you recognize me from the wanted posters.
The alien pulled his cloak back a bit, better revealing his 7 yellow eyes and scarred pincers, which marked him as clearly as Svern.
I don't mind telling you a cycle or so back. My team hit a Jilvastan mechanic. You know the sort, prefers the company of robots to organics.
Svern shifted then, extending his other arm out from under his cloak as one of the Grassin reached for his blade. He made it clear that he had a pistol aimed at each of them now, and they settled down a bit.
It wasn't anything personal. He just had information that we were looking for, and a job is a job. Well, it turns out the old mechanic had something in his workshop none of us had ever seen before. In fact, I can't say I've actually seen it yet. It was big, one arm was a fist, as you'd expect. But the other was a claw, and it had one big red orb that never shut. It took up most of the head, just always peering around, bright red, and evil as anything I've ever seen. Well, this robot took offense to what we'd done. It destroyed our ship's engines before we could take off, and then our mechanics who went to investigate the trouble. It split their throats open and hung them up from the ceiling of the engine room. Just let all their blood flow down into a pool for us to find.
The hardened criminal shivered at the memory.
Well, that was just the start. It came for us, and of course we ran. Thankfully, I knew the Jilvastan had another ship several day cycles from his workshop. Well, Those were the longest day cycles of my life. That robot didn't stop. No matter how tired we were, how short on sleep cycles, it kept coming. Before long, not one of us would go off alone, even to relieve ourselves. We would just see this gleaming red light off in the distance, day and night, for 3 cycles. We only managed to get a mere 6 sleep cycles in that time as we tried to run. It just kept coming. The alien sighed for a moment. Well, in the end, I got everyone but me. I got on that ship and left the planet, but I know it's been following me. Don't ask me how I know, I just do. So, I've been bouncing between fuel stations since then. But the Chilvesian ship broke 2 solar cycles ago. I need to leave. So the Comet will be my ship now. Don't I get a say in this? Norjaz asked. No! And if you don't like that little Siskun squaw, you can complain to your goddess when you see her. Svern responded coldly. Norjaz saw the Grayson start to tug at their knives, perhaps ready to try and rush the alien. But then, a horrible scratching sound made everyone in the bar gasp and clutch their ears, or whatever auditory senses they had. Then they were all looking over at the Polbulon at the end of the bar. He had dragged something over the metallic faceplate of his pressure suit. You're both wrong, and you're both right, the Polbulan said in a scratchy voice like no Polbulan Norjaz had heard. Wrong and right about what? Sverm asked as the alien in the pressure suit slowly turned to face the rest of the bar, his visor closed for some reason. You're not talking about 2 different creatures. You're talking about one. The Grassin and Sverm started to argue, but the Polbulan dragged that shard of metal across his faceplate again, and the horrible sound made everyone stop. What you're talking about is a human. They're new to the sector. I'm sure you've heard the rumors. I've seen him. Oh, you can't be serious. One species, both beast and robot, one of the Grassim explained. No, indeed. But that's only because you've got it part wrong and part right, like I said. You see, not all of them are part robot, but it's easy to think that. What? Nothing can be part robot, Sverm snorted derisively. Any organic would die fused with metal. No, but not these, the Polbulan responded. It starts when they're young. You see, they have too many bones to fit inside their mouths. They have to use metal straps to twist and bend these bones into shape. They've got special doctors that will drill. The alien mimicked the sound of the drill and Norjaz shuddered. Holes into their mouth bones, or even yank them out. He jerked his hand, which made Norjaz and most of the bar patrons gasp in surprise. If they break out the bones, they sometimes drill metal plates into their flesh to hold it together. Sometimes they even do that to their skulls. Wounds in their heads that don't kill them. They just patch up a hole with some metal. They say it lets them pick up radio signals in their brains. Other times, they'll seal up a cut with glue. Just let their body sort it out once the wound is plugged. Then there are times when they'll even burn their own flesh to cauterize an injury. Impossible, Sverm gasped, but sounded worried now. That's why you think what you found was a robot. Even hundreds of cycles ago, before their species had mastered the atom, they would replace lost limbs with metal. If they lost a hand, they'd replace it with a metal hook, the alien shouted, his hand raising up in a hook shape which made everyone gasp.
No, they would jam a wooden stake into their leg if they lost that. Some were lost to disease, but many more survived this process. Their bodies had been hardened by evolution to resist plagues and poison and other toxins, any one of which would kill half this room. The bar was quiet now as they listened in horrifying fascination to a Polbulan. You see, they were scavengers, even on their home planet. This creature didn't start at the top. Instead, they used guile and endurance like no other. The robot you think you faced, or the beast you tracked, you said it yourselves. It never seemed to stop. On and on it went, solar cycles after solar cycle. That's what they do. You run, you might not see them for a bit, and suddenly, there they are. You run further, maybe you get a bit more time, but then there they are again. Across an entire continent, they would track their prey. Norjans had his beak opened wide as he listened, horrified at the sound of these aliens. Now they have something called cybernetics. They actually practice the ability to chop off limbs, replacing them with metal. More gasps as the Polbian spoke. The metals that poison so many don't even faze these creatures. Their flesh will start to fuse around it, accepting it as if it was a part of their natural stealth all along. The blood and innards you tracked. He looked at the Grassin, the remains of a lost limb it tried to save. The red eye you saw in the dark. He looked at Swerm, an eye replaced with metal and power. How do you know this? Swerm asked. Because I've seen him. The Polbulan turned away from the crowd, looking back down into his drink. Only the eye isn't that big. It just seems that way because you're scared. In fact, it looks small. The Polbulan reached up suddenly and yanked the visor away as he turned like this. A red beam swept across the bar and screaming started as everyone realized it wasn't a Polbulan at all. It was a human in a dead Polbulan suit. Norjar screamed and the Grassin tried to pull him away, no doubt to get the keys to his ship. But there was a noise and screaming and blurred motion. Before Norjas really knew what was going on, he was on the floor, shoved down somehow, trying not to look up as he heard more screams and big booms and something warm splattered across his back. He crawled down the bar. Then, when he thought it was clear, he reached up, pulling himself up and over it so that he could hide behind the bar. He clutched his hands over his head until the screaming and booms finally stopped. Slowly, very slowly, he pulled his hands away from his head. Then he slowly got up, turning as he gripped the edge of the bar and edged up to peer over the top. All around the bar were dead aliens. The Grassin were both slain. Svirum's head was nowhere to be found, but his body was draped over a table, and the human was still alive. Oh, the goddess! Norjaz dropped back down. All right, fun's over, the human said. I know you're behind the Kabar. Come on out. Norjaz whimpered as he slowly stood. The red eye of the human scanned over him for a moment, as he now saw the human had another eye, an organic one. They shouldn't trouble you for your ship anymore. I've been hunting this one for a while. He pointed to the Svirum, confirming the criminal's story. Sort of. He killed the guy who patched me up. He then tapped the side of his head where the metal implant replaced one eye.
That's it?
Norjaz asked.
You don't want to feast on me, or steal my ship?
Nah, although it is a great ship. How would you like to join my crew?
What?
Norjaz blinked, confused now.
I could use a good ship and a good crew. You could be the first. This fella had information stolen from that mechanic, you see. Some sort of lost Lecat treasure I want to claim.
You'll let me join your crew?
Norjaz asked, focusing on the offer.
Yeah.
But I'm a Siskin squaw, a creature as terrifying as powerful that you would let me join your crew?
He asked.
Sure, you look like a parrot, and every good pirate needs a parrot.
What?
Norjaz asked and blinked.
Never mind. What's your name?
The human asked.
Higgs skiffs Norjaz.
That's a mouthful. I don't like it. How about that first part, Higgs? I like Higgs. Well, I'm Xavier Tetch.
The human pulled a knife out of his back then as Norjaz gasped. He could see more cuts along the human's body, but he didn't seem to mind or care about any of them. And this creature wanted him to be a part of his crew. Though something else hit Norjaz.
Wait. What's your name? It's boring. What about Blood Eye?
Blood Eye?
The human asked, sounding doubtful.
That's hardly a catchy name. I don't think it'll stick. Now, come on, Higgs. We got a treasure to find.
The human turned and began walking out of the bar, over the dead bodies, stomping through their blood as it pooled on the floor. Did he dare follow the crazy alien? That human? Well, any good Siskin squaw could understand the value of being friends with the toughest, meanest, and most violent predator around. So he began to follow the human, figuring that he'd never find better. End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.